Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our webinar for my decorative quilter. In this month's project, we're going to be talking about producing a monogrammed pillowcase. It was created by Rita Gazard and presented by myself, Mark Garretts. I'm a Floriani National Educator. As I always like to do as we get started, before we get into the software section, I like to show you what the final project is going to look like. And so we're going to do that. Here is the final project. It's a monogram with a lot of flourishes that goes on the edge of a pillowcase. So that's what it looks like. So let's go ahead and get started with the software section, and then we'll come back and finish with the assembly. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the software portion of this project. You're going to start up your My Decorative Quilter program, and if you haven't done it already, come up here to the new page icon and click that so we get a new document window to work with. First thing we want to do is make sure that all of our settings are the same, so we're all on the same page both literally and figuratively. So first thing we want to do is check our mode, whether we're in inches and millimeters. In this particular project, we're going to work in millimeters. So go ahead and right-click on the ruler and select metric. If you aren't already in metric mode, you'll see your ruler changes to metric. You'll see that inches changes to millimeters up here in this corner. Next, we're going to make sure that our rest of the settings are done correctly. So we're going to come up to Tools and click on General Options. First thing we're going to do is come down to here to our grid. We want to make sure our grid spacing is set to 10 millimeters by 10 millimeters. So if it's not already, set it to 10 by 10 by typing in the numbers there. If Maintain Aspect Ratio is checked, you should just have to type it in one and it'll automatically go to the next one. You probably want your grid style to be lines for this particular project, so go ahead and leave it as lines or set it to lines. Lastly, we want to come down here to our digitizing icon and make sure that our outline input mode is set to simple draw. If you haven't changed it from the default, it will be in simple draw. And then click OK to lock those changes in. For this project, we want to see our grid here on the screen. If you don't see grid lines, come over here to the left icons and click on the grid icon, and you should see your grid lines, and they should line up on the millimeter marks if you've done everything followed along. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in our first embellishment here. To do that, come up to this little icon right here, the embellishments icon, and click on it. We are going to use the embellishments from one of the flowers embellishments. So come over here to this flower, click on plus. We're going to come down to flower 02 and select that. And we're going to use this one right here, embellishments 06 rectangle. So you're going to click and highlight that and click OK to bring that in. We want it oriented the other way, so we're going to do that by simply clicking our rotate right icon once and twice to make it horizontal instead of vertical. And now we're going to come in and we're going to add our monogram into the center here. You're going to do that by clicking your text icon, come down here into the center and click, and you'll get your text icon. If it's not already set to this particular font, Fancy Script or FAN_CR, then you want to change it to that. So select Fancy Script. You're going to get an A. We're going to go ahead and leave it an A for this particular example because that's what's in the printed instructions. But if you want, you can backspace over it and type in anything else. Like let's type in an M and click Apply, and you see that over here it changes into an M. We'll go ahead and put it back into an A. So I'm going to backspace over it, do A, and click Apply. Now you want to come over here into where the actual character is, and you can see as I hover over the character, you're going to get a hand. Okay, so that's going to allow me to click and drag and position this character. You want to position this sort of visually instead of mathematically because the A is a little slanted over and there's more of it over here to the left than there is to the right. So just kind of click and drag it around till it looks right to you. And then once you're done, just click off of it and you'll see the character in there. So The next thing we want to do is we want to add our flourish to this design. So we're going to come up and do that by clicking on our decor right here. So click on the decor icon. We're going to use flourish number 30. So scroll down, find flourish number 30 right here, and click OK. And that's going to bring that flourish in. It's going to bring it into the center, so you want to come over and click and drag it down to the bottom. You want to position it right about there, again using the grid lines to the center to position it, and we're going to get it right there. Now this flourish has some extra things going on that we don't necessarily want in this design, and that's these two pieces right here. So we are going to delete them from this particular flourish. So the first thing we need to do is ungroup this flourish because all the individual elements are grouped together. So we're going to come up here and we're going to click our ungroup icon. And that breaks all of these things apart so we can use them, or we can manage them independently. You want to come over here to your sequence view and click the plus icon next to that bottom item, which is the flourish here. We want to delete the first two items, which is sequence number 289 and 290. So do that by clicking on the first run stitch and then holding down the control key and clicking on that second satin stitch to select them. And then we're going to come up here to our cut icon and simply click cut to delete them. Okay, now we want to delete this other satin stitch right here, but we have to do that just a little bit differently. What we're going to do that is we are going to click on index number 295, which is this one right here. You could also do that by visually clicking on that satin stitch, but we're going to go ahead and click on number 295, and we're just going to press our cut icon one more time to delete that. Now that leaves this run stitch in here, which we need to delete. And this run stitch is part of another run stitch that we want to leave under here because it's part of the underlay. So to do that, we're going to click on the run stitch out here to select the run stitch. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come over to our shape icon, and we are going to click the shape icon, and you will see these blue nodes here that allow us to edit this stitch line. And what we're going to do is we're just going to eliminate all of this part of the stitch line but leave this part over here. So to do that, you want to bring your cursor up into this area right about in here. Click and drag a box through those two nodes at the top there, and then over around to make sure we've got it all selected. Let off the mouse, and that will select all of these lines here. Using the delete key on your keyboard, simply press delete and it will delete it, and when you right click, it will then just leave this little bit here, and we've deleted the rest of that run stitch. Now what we need to do is we need to make a copy of this. So we're going to come back and click our normal select icon here. We're going to select that entire flourish, and I'm going to move my screen up a little bit so I can see what's going on the top here. You want to select this entire flourish. We're going to copy and paste it. So we're going to make a copy by clicking the copy icon. We're going to paste it. Then we are going to flip it vertically. So we're going to come here and click flip vertical to make a mirror image of it, and then we're going to drag that up into the top, and again using our grid lines we are going to position that in the center, and we're going to get it spaced about the same as the one down here. Click off it so we can see it. The last thing we need to do is we've got a bunch of different colors going on here, so we want to make it all one color. We're going to actually make it all of this color here, which is sequence number 10 down here in our color palette. So we're going to select everything. The simplest way to do that is over here in our sequence view. We're going to select all items by clicking the all items here. We are going to right click over here on color number 10, and now everything is going to be in one color. So all that remains to be done is to save this project, and all you need to do that is to come up here to our save icon, and you want to navigate to some place where you'll want to put it. I put it in the November 2014 projects file, which is under Designs, MDQ Project, November 2014, and you'll save it with the name Embellished Monogram with Decor.c2s, and this will become your master file. All we want to do now is we also want to save it as our machine file. So I've already saved it in C2S. To save it as a machine file, you come here and you click File, Save As. It's going to bring up that same directory. This time you want to click your down arrow here, pick a machine format, like for example Baby Lock Brother Bernina PES version 9, and we're going to type in a name again. We'll put in Embellished Monogram with Decor, but instead of .c2s, we're going to save it as PES version 9. So that's all you need to do for this, and then of course you want to put it on a stick so you can get it into your machine. So let's move on with the assembly instructions now. This again is what the final project is going to look like. We're going to have the decors and the flourishes on the edge of a pillowcase along with our monogram. Let's go over the materials that are going to be required for this project. You're going to need some Floriani Wet and Gone Tacky Stabilizer, a pillowcase to embroider on, some Floriani embroidery thread, bobbin thread, and a 4" by 4" minimum hoop. You want to cut a piece of Wet and Gone Tacky about 1 inch larger than your inner hoop, remove the paper, and then adhere the stabilizer to the back of the hoop as shown in the picture here. This method will save you a little bit of stabilizer and you don't actually have to hoop it, but you could always hoop it conventionally and score the top and then remove the paper to expose the adhesive. So either way you want to do it is up to you. Next, we need to identify the center of our pillowcase hem. We're going to do it across the hem by folding the hem in half lengthwise and gently pressing it to form a crease. And then we're going to fold the pillowcase in half across the hem to find the center the other direction and lightly press again in the hem area to form a second crease. That'll give us a cross of creases in the center. And then using the creases as a guide, you want to center the hem on the hoop and press it down onto the stabilizer. Smooth out any wrinkles with your fingers, and of course the Wet and Gone Tacky will hold the pillowcase in the hoop. Now obviously you're going to only use the top part of the pillowcase. You want to make sure you keep the bottom of the pillowcase out of the way of the embroidery needle when you load the hoop on the machine. So now we're going to load the design into the machine, attach the hoop to the machine, again making sure that the bottom part of the pillowcase doesn't get in the way. And if necessary, you want to use your machine controls to fine-tune the position of the design on the hem. You want to make sure that the design fits all within the hem. And then you're going to press start to go ahead and stitch out the design. We've designed it all in one color, so it should just stitch out from one end to the next. And then lastly, we need to just finish up the project. You want to remove the hoop from your machine, remove the design from the hoop, carefully pull back the stabilizer up to the edge of the design, and trim away the excess stabilizer. This is not a tear-away stabilizer, so don't try and tear it away. You want to trim away the excess, and you want to wash the pillowcase to remove the remaining stabilizer, and that will complete the project. We want to thank everybody for viewing this video, and we also expect that you will use the PDF instructions that you've downloaded to recreate the project at home. Thanks again, and we'll see you next month.